Sterling. We're coming up on the season finale for 1923, season 1, and it was titled The Rule of 500. We saw last week there was a little bit of foreboding around Alex with Spencer as she talks about "You'll be the death of me," and that's kind of how the episode ended. And this week we have more of the foreboding, but it's not centered around Alex. It's centered around another key character in Jack. And we'll get to that. But first, give us your thoughts just overall. This was a little bit of a different episode because it was the first one that we really didn't get to Spencer and Alex until the very end.
Yeah.
So what were your thoughts of the episode? Did you like it? What sort of themes did you see, overarching themes, as we kind of get into the nuts and bolts of what we saw and what we think is going to happen in the finale?
I generally find that Spencer's scene's the most interesting. He had the least amount of screen time in this episode than any of the other episodes, I would say.
Yeah, maybe 10 minutes.
Yeah. And I guess the thing that sticks out the most is I figured maybe by the end of the season he would arrive in Montana.
It's not looking that way now.
And it doesn't seem that way. I think when he shows up they're in Italy, and he shows up there and they mention the mafia and things.
Yeah, they're in the port of Sicily.
Yeah, they mentioned the mafia, which that could set up some cool scenarios. But
doesn't mean he's going to be home any quicker.
Right. Yeah, exactly. So I don't think they would just mention that if that wasn't going to be relevant.
No.
So I could see him spending a few episodes on that, and then of course Alex conveniently runs into her fiance.
Right. And we'll get into that, the tie into that, because it's going to go one of two ways. My initial thought was that it's not going to amount to anything. It was just it was a way to end the episode and it won't really go anywhere. But I don't think that's going to be the case. And let me back up and talk about how the episode started. For me, this was all about setting the table for the finale. And what was really cool about this episode is that it opens and it's winter. And anybody who's been to Montana and been to the Dakota territories, even today in modern times, it's when it's cold there, it gives new meaning to the word cold. Yeah. So when you see winter set in, it almost plays a character in the story. This fight is building, and winter is playing this role, and only the strongest are going to survive. And you can't be weak and survive in that climate, and especially in the early 1900s. And so we see winter set in, and Kara is seen praying, and you got Jacob, played by Harrison Ford. Now he's up moving around. He's got the jacket on, and he's going to meet with the sheriff, and they're going to arrest Banner. And Jack is leaving Elizabeth, and he's going to join them. And so they're departing off, and you see the women scared, concerned. They know that danger's around the corner, and the men are going to do their jobs and try to protect their family by getting Banner arrested. So what's cool about it is you see them arrive into town on horseback, and because of the snow, we've seen all the modern world and the technological advances, hitting Jacob Dutton and his family in the face. But in this moment, you see them riding into town, and there's a car stuck in the snow and ice. Mm-hmm. And it's almost like, Jacob's riding in on horseback, and it's like, the modern world may be coming, but it's not here yet.
Yeah.
And this is still about men. And so I thought that was cool, the way that Taylor Sheridan laid that out. And then we have a little bit of I don't want to call it an Easter egg, but a little bit of a giveaway. Clyde that had joined working for Kara and the sheriff with the cattle livestock agent role. We see him seeing Jacob and the sheriff's going to arrest Banner, and he takes off. And I
made a mistake, by the way. I said he was Irish. He's Scottish. Sorry.
He's Scottish.
Sorry about that.
Yeah, you've already been scolded.
Yeah.
And so Clyde leaves and flees, and we don't know where he's going yet. But you get a sense that the fact that he doesn't join Harrison Ford and the sheriff means he's actually not on their side, which is what you called. You said he's going to betray them. No. And so and then we get to Banner, and Banner's in this new house, and he's getting wine and glasses. And look, Jerome Flynn, he's been in 2 major series, Game of Thrones and now 1923, and he's always got prostitutes. And he's always doing really kinky, crazy stuff with them. He's pouring wine on these 2 women, and he's about to have a really good time.
His character's similar to his character in Game of Thrones. It's the
Yeah,
same.
although he-
It's the
although
same.
in
It's
Game
kind
of-
of the same character.
Although in
Different
Game
time
of
period.
Thrones, he was somewhat redeemable, right? He had a
Well, yeah, he
redeemable
was a little more likable. Yeah,
he
but
was a hard hand. But so Banner's about to enjoy the morning, and then he gets a knock at the door, and the reason why this scene's important is this: he's being let out and arrested. He looks at young Jack, and I think Jack makes a comment about his robe, and he says, "You pup," he said, "you cheated death twice. You won't do it again." Okay, so when we started this season of this show, you said Jack was going to die. We thought
Yeah.
Jack was dead.
he's already made it further than I thought he would.
So
I definitely.
this episode, what we saw in the last episode with Alex and the foreboding around her and Spencer being the death of her, we now see that with Jack in this episode. Jack is a goner.
I believe so.
If he doesn't die in the season finale, and we'll talk about what we think is going to happen in the season finale in a minute, so stick around.
We could be wrong, but I think
We
he's
could
good.
be.
I think he's.
But we'll talk about that in a second. So stick around to the end of the video. So we'll give our predictions for the final episode. We also are going to have an announcement about giveaways. So you're going to want to stick around to the end of the video and hit that like button, leave a comment, and subscribe so that we can grow our channel. So Jack is told by Banner, "You won't survive a third time," and so I think that the groundwork's been laid. Jack's dying. So does he die before his baby's born? Does he die after? He's dying. And so, you see Banner led away, and then we see Clive or Clyde show up at the mine and tells Whitfield. So we know now he's aligned with Whitfield, and he's going to betray Kara and the Duttons. Now, will he betray the sheriff? We don't know yet. Is the sheriff dirty? Because the sheriff tossed the badge to Clive in the last week's episode, and we don't know yet. Ultimately, will the sheriff turn on Jacob? We don't know.
Yeah,
he
he
was
could
very
be.
quick to give him the badge, and he explained it because Kara didn't want to do
Or
it.
even if he's not dirty yet, he could be. 'Cause,
Right, he could turn.
Yeah.
So, and so then we see Banner arrested, and then Whitfield gets him out of jail. A lawyer shows up and is going to bribe the judge, and so we know Banner's going to be out. So leading into the final episode of the season, Banner's going to be on the loose, and so that's leading to an altercation with Jack. And so, first thoughts. I mean, do you agree? You think Jack's going to be out of there?
I do. Yeah, I think they'll probably be the last episode. We have 2 episodes left.
We have one.
We have one.
We have
Okay.
one.
Yeah, I think he's going to be dead in the next
If
episode.
he doesn't die in the finale, he's gonna be severely mortally wounded. But so that's our prediction there. That's one of our first key predictions. And then we have a small scene where Kara is writing a letter to Spencer, and she's talking to Elizabeth about it helps her kind of get through through tough times, even though she knows that he won't get the letter. But what she does is it kind of paints more of a portrait of who Spencer was as a child. She talks about how he was quiet as a child and he paid attention and listened to things. And what you're getting is an idea ultimately of who this guy was, is, and is going to be, that's going to tie into future Duttons that we see beyond this series, which I think is important as we get into who is the grandfather of who and how did we get to the point where Kevin Costner arrives in Yellowstone. And so, another little nugget is they're sitting around the dinner table, and the cabinet behind the table this is a little bit of an Easter egg if people didn't catch it. The glass cabinet behind the dinner table is the same cabinet that is in the table where the modern day family at Yellowstone with Kevin Costner eats. I don't know if the table is the same, but the cabinet is definitely the same cabinet that has been there for 100 years plus. And so that was a nice little nugget to the modern Yellowstone series. And then Jack's reading the paper, and he says Whitfield is been headed as the vice chairman of the commission to regulate mining from Washington, D.C. So Whitfield is powerful, and Jacob has a little bit of concern in his face. He knows this is a fight that's going to be very difficult to win. And so then we cut to probably the toughest scenes to watch in this season, which is around Tiana Rainwater. And again, more brutality. But there were a few key things there. So the actor who plays Pete, Pete Plentyclouds. He's a young kid who goes up and tells Tiana's father that she's looking for him, that she got away from the school and something bad happened. Pete is actually related to the character that plays Rainwater's right-hand man in the modern Yellowstone. And so could we have another bloodline? Could that be an Easter egg for another bloodline that ties into the Native American families that make their way through this prequel series to the modern Yellowstone? So Pete basically tells Tiana's father that she's been kidnapped, and he's already extremely angry because he's found his mother dead, and he knows that white men from the government, based on the tracks, the hoofs of the horses, have killed her. And so one thing's cool about Tiana's father, you know what his name was, right?
I can't remember.
Runs his horse.
Oh.
What a cool name. The Native American names are they're way better than ours. So his name is Runs His Horse. And we saw him in episode 2, another little potential Easter egg for people that maybe didn't catch it. Zane hands the sheep off to him in episode 2 when they go to the border of the land of the Duttons ranch. They hand him off he's one of the horsemen for the Native American reservation. And so Runs His Horse says, Pete, you go find them. I'm going to round up here. So he buries his mother in Native American custom burial. And then we see Pete Plentyclouds gets caught by 3 priests. And they literally, they kidnap the guy. They kidnap the kid, right? He's like, I've been educated. I'm free. And they go to take him. And so the 2 priests split up. They go to find Tiana. And the 1 priest stays with Pete, which is a mistake because he tries to kill Pete and runs his horses, shows up and kills the priest and says, "You go on, Pete. I'll catch up with you." And he comes back. He's got blood all over his mouth. And he asks him, "What did you do?" And he says,
ate his soul.
I ate his soul.
So he ate his heart, I guess. I don't know.
We're assuming he ate his heart. I take that to mean he ate his heart. And so that was what that scene showed you with Runs His Horses is he is nobody to be messed with. Like, he is violent. He will defend his culture and his family, and he will do so mercilessly. And so it's about time Tiana had some type of ally like that, because Hank, who I think I accidentally in one of the prior episodes called Frank, Hank ends up dying, saving Tiana from the 2 other priests. And so
he left his gun there, which I instantly knew. I was like, why'd you leave your gun?
Yeah, he left it, and then he gets shot.
Yep.
But poor Tiana, she suffered. She's been assaulted so many different ways, almost killed 10 times. But she bashes the other priest's head in with a rock after he kills Hank. But she survives for now. And so we know that she's going to reunite with her father, Runs His Horses, and Pete, who's been beaten, but he's alive. And so there's going to be an army kind of built up there that's going to fight Father Renaud. How that ties into the Duttons and the overall story, we don't know yet, but those scenes are tough to watch, but it just shows you that the history around how Native Americans were treated it is what it is. It really happened, and Taylor Sheridan does not shy away from it in this series. There's been some criticism in the past that maybe he didn't deal with it enough in Yellowstone, but he's dealing with it now. And the actress that plays Tiana has done a fantastic job. And so, we wrap up with her, and we end the show the last few minutes with Spencer and Alex in Sicily. So let's get back to what you talked about with Spencer and Alex. So they're leaving on the ship, and the captain, I thought, was a little interesting. He tells Spencer, "If I ever need protection from a lion," he says, "I didn't say I was a hunter." And he said, "I don't know if you know this, but you're famous." So he lets him know, look, your reputation has preceded you. Everyone knows who you are. And so then he disembarks, and they end up in the port of Sicily. And as you mentioned, the soldier says, "You might want to hide the gun." Mussolini. So we have 2 issues popping up for Spencer and Alex, and then we'll have a third. The first was Mussolini could be a problem for them as they move inland.
Mm-hmm.
And then you have the mafia. And so my prediction is the mafia is going to tie into Alex's fiance. He sees her at the end, calls her out. She's married now. He can't do anything about it. And we know he can't face down Spencer physically.
What'd you think of that, though? I just thought I'm not a big fan of convenient situations like that. It was just really contrived that,
I didn't like it.
across the world. Like originally, he meets her in he met her in England, right?
In Africa.
Oh no, Africa. That's right, Africa. She's from England, and then just happens to run into him in Italy at a restaurant. I don't know. I wasn't a huge
What are
fan
the odds of that?
Yeah.
Yeah, I didn't like it either. I that's why I think there's going to be some sort of tie-in. I'm trying to think. Would I like it better if it was a plot device that is wrapped up very neatly in the last episode?
If there is this scenario where he hires the mob to attack Spencer,
that's what I think's going to happen.
and you get some. I mean, that could be some great television.
Yeah,
honestly, that'd be. You get to see him fight the mob from the 20s.
Well,
That's
she
cool.
says we're moving away from danger, and he says no, we're moving toward.
Right.
We're moving towards it. So,
but the other thing is, some people just want to see him get back to Montana, and I thought that would happen right at the end.
I did too.
And I don't know if that's going to be the case. It might not be. It might be a few episodes in the next season when that actually happens. So, I think there's a good chance she doesn't make it to Montana.
Yeah.
I don't think Alex is going to make it. I think Alex may die before they get to Montana. I think Jack's going to die, and I think Spencer might end up with Jack's wife.
Well, the actress said she did horse training, riding a lot before she did the show. So I tend to think she makes it to Montana because she has to ride horses. We haven't seen that yet. That's just my prediction, but
I didn't know
you could
that.
be right.
So
there was one thing I liked. There was a comment Spencer makes before we come up with our predictions and then our announcement is, she's talking about the English and he says, you have a culture. You're a culture based on pretending to be experts in things you know nothing about. And she says, "No, that's the French." That's a great that's a great line. But so then the fiance shows up. My predictions. Let's wrap it up before we get to our announcement and talk about prediction. I think you're right. I think that the fiance is going to hire someone in the mafia, and Spencer is going to have to face down members of the mafia. Maybe he loses Alex. Maybe he doesn't. But before he disembarks to make it to the Americas, I think he's got to fight members of the mafia due to the fiance. So that's my prediction. I think we're going to see Spencer being stuck in another altercation that delays him from getting home. First prediction. Second prediction, I think Jack and Elizabeth are going to have a wedding, and I think Banner is going to kill Jack or mortally wound him in the wedding, either during the wedding or in the reception. And so I think we're going to end up seeing the last of Jack. Maybe they ended on a cliffhanger, but that's my prediction is the foreboding around Alex and Jack these last two episodes are very clear if you could really pay attention to what's going on. And then I think that you're going to see more of Jacob's reaction to what's going on with Banner. And we're going to see Jacob have his first interaction really with Whitfield, Timothy Dalton, in the finale.
Yeah.
But I do not think Spencer makes it home for the season finale. So, I changed my view from 3 or 4 episodes ago when we thought he might make it. So that's our thoughts on the final episode. Now I want to get to a quick announcement. In the next week, we're going to have giveaways. So for those of you that are interested in potentially winning and you're fans of some of the content we've covered, first, if you're a fan of House of the Dragon or Game of Thrones, we are going to be giving away the George Martin illustrated book that is really, really cool. And we're going to be giving 3 of these away. So 3 different individuals are going to win these books. If you're fans of Game of Thrones, Jon Snow, House of the Dragon, so stay tuned. We're going to be making an announcement to give this away. And you're going to have to be eligible, you have to subscribe and also follow our Twitter and our Instagram. And if you do those 3 things, you're eligible to win. And we're going to have an announcement who wins those 3 books. And then if you're a Star Wars fan, we're going to be giving away a Funko Pop exclusive from GameStop to 5 different people for Mandalorian in anticipation of the show launching next week. So we will be giving these away next week. Again, all you have to do is hit subscribe, follow our Twitter and our Instagram accounts, and you will be eligible to win. So just want to make that announcement. We're going to be having those giveaways in the next week and the following week. And we're excited to be able to give those things away. Remember, if you like what you heard today, leave a comment below, hit the like button, and most importantly, hit subscribe so that we can grow our channel and TCB.